ESCANOR is the lion sin of pride and the most anomalous member of the 7 deadly sins by every measurable standard. Every other member of the group has power that scales with training, experience, or the type of opponent in front of them. ESCANOR'S power scales with the sun. From midnight until dawn, his physical strength is at its lowest. He is, during the hours of total darkness, approximately as capable as an ordinary human being. As the sun rises, his power begins to climb. By noon on any given day, he has reached the peak of what his ability allows, which the series designates as the One, a state in which his magical power exceeds every other being the series has introduced up to the point of its use. During the fight against the Demon King's manifestation in the final arc, ESCANOR uses the One Ultimate, an extended version of the Noon state that burns through his own lifespan to maintain the peak beyond the natural window. The physical output of the One is not expressed through a technique or a special attack. It is expressed through temperature. ESCANOR at noon generates heat at his skin's surface that exceeds what most materials can withstand, and the divine axe Rita that he carries amplifies and stores that heat across the hours leading to noon, releasing it in combat as an additional channel of destruction. What makes ESCANOR specifically dangerous at the One is not that he hits harder than anyone else. It is that his physical invulnerability at that state means nothing that has been introduced in the series can damage him through conventional means. He does not dodge. He does not defend. He stands and allows attacks to land, and they do not register. The cost of the One Ultimate is that using it beyond the natural noon window burns through ESCANOR'S own vitality to fuel the extension, consuming him from the inside. He used it to defeat the Demon King. He burned through everything he had to hold it long enough. He disintegrated when it ended. Charlotte KATAKURI is the second son of the Charlotte family and the strongest of Big Mom's 3 sweet commanders at the time of the Whole Cake Island arc. His observation haki operates at a level that has no confirmed equal among any character introduced in One Piece up to the point where he is encountered. He does not simply sense the immediate future in the way that most advanced observation haki users can manage. He sees it with enough detail and enough lead time to effectively operate as though the future is the present. In practice, this means he has never been hit. Not during the events of the arc, not in the years before it. His entire combat history is constructed around an ability that makes conventional striking essentially impossible, because by the time an attack reaches the space he occupies, he has already moved. His Mochi Mochi no Mi gives him a paramecia-type ability that makes his body mochi, a substance he can reshape at will, and that has a damage resistance comparable to a rubber-type logia, absorbing impact rather than transmitting it. The combination of future sight observation haki and a body that does not respond to blunt force the way conventional bodies do makes him the closest thing to an untouchable opponent that the pre-Wano arc of One Piece produces. His awakened form extends his Devil Fruit ability beyond his own body, turning the surrounding environment into mochi that he controls as an extension of himself. What Luffy identifies and exploits during their extended fight is not a gap in Katakuri's technique. It is a gap in his experience. He has never fought someone whose attack patterns were sufficiently unpredictable to exceed his future sight. And when Luffy begins developing his own observation haki during the fight itself, operating on instinct rather than training, the window between what Katakuri sees and what actually happens begins to narrow in ways he cannot compensate for quickly enough. Broly's power in the 2018 Dragon Ball Super film operates differently from every other Saiyan transformation in the franchise because it is not a trained state. It is not achieved through meditation, near-death recovery, or the specific emotional catalysts that produce Super Saiyan in the series' standard transformation logic. Broly's power is genetic in a way that the series had not previously explored. He was born with a power level that alarmed King Vegeta enough to exile him to a remote planet as an infant, because the power present at birth exceeded what most Saiyans reach through years of training and battle. The transformation that manifests during his fight against Goku and Vegeta on Earth is not Super Saiyan in the conventional sense. The series designates it as Legendary Super Saiyan, a distinct evolutionary path that produces a different physical form, characterized by green-tinted energy rather than the golden aura of standard Super Saiyan, and by a size increase that is continuous rather than fixed, with the form growing larger and more powerful the longer it is active. The legendary Super Saiyan state has no observed ceiling within the film. Goku and Vegeta's Super Saiyan Blue, which requires the combination of Super Saiyan with the God Ki produced through the Super Saiyan God ritual, is insufficient against Broly at the point he reaches. The combined Gogeta fusion, which produces a warrior using both their powers simultaneously, is what finally generates enough output to push him back. Broly's transformation is not powered by anger at injustice or a desire to protect someone. It is powered by grief, the loss of his father Paragus, killed by Frieza during the engagement, which triggered the final escalation of his power in a form that the people who had manipulated him into the fight were not prepared to survive.
KILLUA'S GODSPEED is an application of his transmuter Nen ability that converts his Nen directly into electricity and routes it through his nervous system. The basic version of this, which he develops earlier in the series, is called Thunderbolt, a direct offensive discharge. Godspeed is the advanced application, split into two components. Whirlwind routes the electricity through his body's motor control system, allowing his muscles to react to stimuli at the speed of electrical impulse, rather than the speed of neural signal processing. This removes the biological delay between perceiving a threat and the body responding to it, the fraction of a second that exists between seeing something and moving away from it, and replaces it with near instantaneous movement driven by electrical signal. Speed of lightning is the second component, which routes electricity through his bodies differently to produce sustained maximum speed movement, rather than reactive movement.
The combination means Killua in Godspeed is moving faster than most opponents in the series can perceive, reacting faster than their attacks can reach him, and generating electrical discharge simultaneously. The technique has a specific cost. It requires significant Nen reserves to maintain, and the electrical routing through his nervous system is not indefinitely sustainable without physical damage. The moment Killua uses it most significantly in the series is during his protection of Alluka, his younger sibling, whose wish-granting ability makes her a target for every faction that knows she exists. Killua in Godspeed moving through opponents who are trying to reach Alluka is not a fight in the conventional sense. It is a gap in time where threats cease to exist before they can complete their approach.
Toji Fushiguro's designation as a divine slayer is not a formal title the series awards him. It is the functional description of what he did. Operating without a single unit of cursed energy in a world where cursed energy is the foundational requirement for everything that makes a combatant capable of engaging with jujitsu on any meaningful level. Cursed energy powers barriers, detection, binding vows, domain expansions, and the reinforcement that makes sorcerers physically superior to ordinary humans. Toji has none of it. His body produces none. The absence of cursed energy that would be a crippling disability for any sorcerer is, for Toji, invisibility. He has no cursed energy signature for barriers or detection techniques to register, which means he moves through the security architecture of the jujitsu world as though it does not exist.
His physical body compensates for the absence through a density and musculature that exceeds anything produced by cursed energy reinforcement, and his inventory curse, a small cursed spirit he stores in his own body, carries his weapon collection, giving him access to cursed tools that he wields without the cursed energy required to unlock their full capabilities, using the weapons themselves rather than the power built into them. During the hidden inventory arc, he dismantled Gojo Satoru, who was already acknowledged as the most gifted sorcerer of his generation, twice. He killed Gojo. Gojo's reverse curse technique activated post-mortem and rebuilt him from the cellular level up, which is a survival mechanism Toji could not have anticipated because it had never been done before. The man without cursed energy defeated the strongest twice, and was only stopped when the target developed a capability that had not previously existed in order to survive him.
Giorno Giovanna acquires Gold Experience Requiem during the final confrontation with Diavolo in Golden Wind by piercing his stand Gold Experience with the Requiem arrow, the same arrow that produced Polnareff's Silver Chariot Requiem earlier in the arc. The transformation that results is categorically different from any other stand evolution produced by the arrow. Requiem stands are described as stands that have achieved a form beyond their original capability, by the arrow recognizing something in them. What Gold Experience Requiem recognizes and amplifies is Gold Experience's existing ability, which was the power to give life to things, to convert inanimate objects into living organisms, to create organic tissue from non-organic material. Gold Experience Requiem's ability is stated in the series, in terms that are not metaphorical. It returns everything to zero. Any action taken against Giorno, any attack, any decision, any sequence of events set in motion to harm him, is returned to the state of never having happened. The attack occurs, reaches him, and is nullified, not by defense, but by the negation of the causal chain that produced it. Diavolo's ability, King Crimson, which had been the most comprehensively difficult power in Golden Wind to counter because it erased time segments and allowed him to act within the erase period without being subject to consequences, is nullified by Requiem. King Crimson erases time. Gold Experience Requiem returns causality to zero. The time erasure is erased. Diavolo's death loop, the state Giorno places him in at the end, is not a conventional death. It is an infinite recursion of dying in different ways, returned to zero each time before completion, so that death is approached and not reached indefinitely. SABER'S Excalibur is the most powerful noble phantasm available to any servant participating in the Fifth Holy Grail War in Fate's Day Night, and it carries a cost that distinguishes it from the noble phantasms of the other servants competing in the war. Most noble phantasms are deployed at the moment of need, and their cost is paid in magical energy at the point of use. Excalibur's output is not generated from Saber's own magical energy reserves. It is generated from the magical energy of her master, channeled through their contract and converted into the sword's output at the moment of activation. The release of Excalibur produces a concentrated beam of magical energy that travels in a straight line, at a scale that eliminates anything in its path, without distinguishing between servants, heroic spirit-level opponents, and the physical landscape they are standing on. The restraint applied to Excalibur throughout most of the war is not a limitation of Saber's choice. It is a practical constraint. Using Excalibur at full output requires magical energy at a quantity that Shiro Emiya, her master in the Fifth War, does not have the capacity to provide consistently. The sword is available to her at all times. The ability to release it fully depends on resources that are not always present. When those resources are provided, either through exceptional circumstances or through Shiro's specific ability to project traced weapons and provide energy that way, what Excalibur produces at full release is not a technique that can be defended against within the system of the Holy Grail War as it is structured. It is an absolute output delivered in a direction, and the direction ceases to exist as a threat. The red trump card in the Night Raid context refers to Akame's ability in Akame ga Kill, the activation of the curse built into the blade Murasame, which is the final and most destructive application of her primary weapon. Murasame is a katana that kills with a single cut, regardless of the wound's severity. The mechanism is a curse distributed through the blade's edge. Contact with any living being transmits the curse through the cut,
which then progresses toward the heart and kills the target within seconds. There is no resistance to it available to anyone introduced in the series up to the point of its use. The only way to survive a cut from Murasame is to immediately remove the affected tissue before the curse progresses far enough to reach the heart, which requires identifying the cut site instantly and having the means and presence of mind to act on it while in combat.
The red trump card is distinct from Murasame's standard use. It activates when Akemi cuts herself with the blade, turning the curse against her own body and using the resulting energy surge to amplify her speed and physical output dramatically, at the cost of the curse beginning to consume her from the inside simultaneously. She used it against Esdeath, who was the most powerful individual in the Empire, and who had constructed an ability around the manipulation of ice at a scale that could freeze time itself in a localized area. Esdeath fighting at full capability against any opponent other than Akemi in that specific state was not a fight. Against Akemi using the red trump card, with the curse running through her own body, accelerating every physical system she had, while simultaneously killing her, it became something closer to even for long enough to matter. Lucy is the name given to the Diclonius, a human-adjacent species with invisible telekinetic arms called vectors, who is the central figure of Elfenlied. And her psychological state at the series' beginning is the product of a specific sequence of events that the series reveals in fragments across its runtime. Diclonius children are born with small horns and the vector ability, which makes them identifiable at birth, and which the research facility that conducts experiments on them treats as sufficient justification for their treatment as subjects rather than people. Lucy was not born in the facility. She was born and placed in an orphanage as a human child. Her horns were small enough to be concealed, and she spent her early childhood in the ordinary social misery of an institution, where some children are treated well and others are not, depending entirely on circumstances beyond their control. She found a dog. She cared for it in secret because having something to care for was the closest thing available to having something that was hers. The children who had made her a target found out about the dog and killed it in front of her. The vectors activated. Everyone in the immediate area died. What the series presents as Lucy's split personality, a childlike alternate identity named Nu who emerges after a head injury, is not a supernatural phenomenon. It is the psychological architecture of a person who experienced so much early trauma that compartmentalization became the only available response. The killing capacity she carries and the person she might have been exist in the same body, separated by whatever barrier her mind constructed to keep them from destroying each other. The facility that eventually captures and experiments on her does not create her violence. It confirms what she had already learned about what the world intended for her. Johann Liebert's emptiness in Monster is not a characterization of evil as absence. It is a characterization of a specific kind of psychological damage that the series traces with clinical precision across its entire runtime. Johann was a child in a program that conducted psychological experiments on children selected for exceptional intelligence, designed to produce a specific kind of person, one capable of extraordinary things without the emotional constraints that ordinary development installs. The program succeeded in ways its administrators did not intend and could not control. What it produced in Johann was not a person with suppressed emotions. It was a person who had the capacity for something like connection, who demonstrated it in his relationship with his twin sister Anna, and who had everything else systematically removed or replaced with a void that he spent his adult life attempting to fill by producing the conditions that felt most native to what he had become. Johann does not kill for pleasure in the conventional sense. He kills with the specific interest of a person testing whether any outcome can produce the feeling that something matters. He is one of the most dangerous human beings in the series world, not because he is physically exceptional, but because the absence of a reason not to do something is sufficient justification for him to do it, and the absence extends to everything. Dr. Tenma's pursuit of him across the series is the series' argument that the emptiness Johan embodies is not inevitable, that the same conditions that produced Johan could, under different circumstances, produce something else, and that the intervention of a single person at a specific moment can matter even when everything that followed seems to refute it.
Isabella in The Promised Neverland is one of the most comprehensively tragic figures in the series because she is simultaneously the story's most effective antagonist and its clearest demonstration of what the farm system does to the people it does not consume. Isabella was a child at Grace Fieldhouse. She was smart, exceptional scores, the kind of scores that kept her at the farm longer than most children stayed, developing her brain for a harvest that she could not know was coming. She had a friend named Leslie who created music that she loved. Leslie was shipped out. Isabella climbed the wall trying to escape after he was gone and saw what was on the other side, the void, the cliff, the impossibility of any conventional escape. The previous mother found her there and explained the options. Isabella chose to become a mother. She underwent the training, which included becoming pregnant and giving birth to a child she would never raise. That child was Ray, whose unusual memory allowed him to retain the experience of being in utero, which is how he knew the truth about the farm before Emma and Norman discovered it, and why he recognized the song Isabella hummed as the one Leslie had made. Isabella managed Grace Fieldhouse with complete competence and genuine affection for the children she was raising to be harvested. The affection was not performance. The management was not cruelty in the conventional sense. She had accepted the world's terms because she had seen the wall and understood there was nothing on the other side that she could reach. And having accepted those terms, she made the best possible version of the life they allowed. When the children escape, she does not pursue them beyond what her role requires. She lets her hair down. She was their mother. That was always true. Satan in Devilman Crybaby revealed to be Ryo Asuka, Akira's closest friend, the person who initiated the entire sequence of events by convincing Akira to merge with the demon Amon, is the series' most genuinely devastating figure because the horror of what Satan did is inseparable from the reason it was done. Satan is the original fallen angel, the being who led the rebellion against God and who has been in conflict with humanity as God's chosen for longer than human civilization has existed.
The plan that Satan executes across the series, revealing demons to humanity and allowing the mutual destruction of both, is not malice in the straightforward sense. It is the action of a being who loves one person, who has always loved that one person across iterations of the cycle that the series reveals has happened before, and who cannot find any other way to be near them without the framework of the war between angels, demons, and humanity, making that nearness impossible. Satan destroys the world for Akira, not as a secondary consequence of something else, directly, deliberately, as the intended outcome of a plan constructed around the specific goal of a world where the two of them could exist without the conflict separating them. Akira dies in the process. The world is gone. God informs Satan that the cycle is starting over, that this has happened before, that it will happen again, that the outcome is the same each iteration. Satan holds what is left of Akira and weeps in a way that the series has not prepared the audience for, because everything before it has positioned Satan as the architect of catastrophe. The architect is mourning. The mourning is real. The world it cost is also real. If you like this video, turn on the notification bell and subscribe for more.